Welcome back to Travel Like an Oching. Happy New Year. It's now 2025. We are delighted to have with us today Ellie Oching, who is also a member of Travel Like an Oching, to talk about her recent trip to Japan. And I'm most interested in exactly not only her travels, but travel as a young Black woman in Japan. If that's going to be interesting to you, please stick around. And without further ado, welcome, Ellie. How are you?
I'm well. How are you, Dad? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I'm doing great. Okay, so let's just jump right into this. Why the country of Japan?
I have never been to Asia. It's kind of been on my bucket list, and I've always wanted to go to Japan. And the exchange was really good, the exchange rate for US dollars and yen.
Yeah.
So I thought it was the perfect time. Why not?
Okay, so that kind of jumps into my second question. What were the circumstances that prompted you to go? Prompted you to go? Sounds like some of it was economic, the strength of the dollar. But was there anything else that prompted you to go other than never being to Asia? Because there are other places you've never been to. What about Japan called you?
From a distance, I think that I really like the culture that Japan has, the fashion that Japan has. I love anime, so that's another reason. So, I just think that their culture is really beautiful and the history that goes along with that.
What type of budgeting did you do?
That's a funny question. I did very little budgeting for this trip. Very, very little budgeting for this trip, but I also understood my circumstances, so I felt comfortable doing so.
Okay. Now, do you normally recommend budgeting these things that seat of your pants, or what is?
No, yeah.
Okay.
I love a good budget. I'm a big budgeter, to be
Yeah, you
honest.
you
No.
you are your mother's daughter, and that's not an insult. That's very much a compliment. Did you travel solo?
I didn't. I went with a coworker.
How safe did you feel?
I think whether I had a male travel buddy or not, I would say I would feel very comfortable in Japan. It's a pretty safe area. I think at night, if you're in the wrong areas, you can end up being around the wrong types of people, drunk people, but that's the worst you're gonna see. It is so safe there. It is ridiculous.
And it's fair to say that's kind of a rule of thumb anyway. Anywhere you go, you don't want to put yourself in
Of
jeopardy or
course, right.
yeah. What airline and class of service did you fly over?
My airline was United Airline, and I was in economy, and that was the worst overseas flight I have ever been on. That was tough. It was 16 hours there,
Oh,
and then I think it was a lot less back. It was like 12 hours back.
did you have a middle seat or a window seat?
I had a window seat on the way down, and it was only a row of two. So it was me and one other lady, which was really nice.
Oh, that's
That
good.
was super easy, super easy. And then on the way back, I think I had another window seat.
Wow, that's amazing. And I know you're famous for being able to hold your bodily functions for a long period of time. Were you able to limit that? How many times did you have to use the facilities?
Well, when I was sitting next to a girl on the way there, she got up. So when she got up, I was like, okay, girl, I'll get up too.
Good.
Because she was getting up a good amount. And I was like, okay, I might as well take the opportunity. On the way back, though, it was two men. And so I held it the entire way. I didn't get up
Oh,
once.
I don't know how you do it. I really don't.
You
That
don't take the drinks. You do
well,
not.
that's even worse because you want to hydrate during those dry flights. Oh,
Those guys were not budging. Nope.
what were your accommodations like in Japan? Let's talk about a little bit about that.
Japan was the first time that I strictly did hostels. It was the first time I strictly did hostel travel.
Ah,
Mostly because it was easier because I was traveling with another guy who just I'm not in a relationship with or anything. So I was like, okay, this is easy. We can do like mixed gender hostels.
mm.
It's the cheapest way to go in terms of accommodation, and it was so very worth it. I loved the hostels.
So, are you a member of Hostel International?
I am not a member of Hostel International.
You might want to look that up. Your father is a member of that and has been since his early traveling days. And basically, what it is it's a network of hostels all over the world. I mean, you literally could be staying in a castle in Edinburgh, or a real nice posh location in Europe or Japan or what have you. So
All
take a
right.
look at Hostels International and look at signing up. Also, there's a huge hostel network in the United States you get tied into, so it's very much worth taking a look at. And you
Yeah.
are of that age and demographic where it makes sense to do that. I don't
Yeah.
think I could do hosteling anymore at my
I,
advanced age.
to
Um,
similar to what you're talking about, I used Hostel World, which is really
hmm.
big travel too for finding hostels. So that's another good site.
What sites did you visit when you went there?
We flew in to Tokyo, and then from Tokyo we went to Osaka and Kyoto, and then we did the imperial palaces in both those places. But
Mhm.
mostly we walked around and we just found different temples. They were
Nice.
absolutely gorgeous and everywhere. The kid I was traveling with, he was kind of a history buff.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it was really cool. And he had like an app that showed him where all the temples were in Japan.
Wow.
I don't know the name of the app. But so we just bounced around, ate street food, and it was great.
Oh, you trusted your digestive tract to street food. Did you have any incidents by doing that?
No,
Oh, pretty brave. Pretty
no,
brave.
no, not at all.
So is it fair to say that you got to your locations via the bullet train?
Once. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, well, technically twice. We had a little bit of an accident. Um, I
What?
had I had booked, I know. I had booked all of the accommodations, so he was booking all of the travel in between.
Okay.
So anyway, basically, I realized when we were still in the US that our flight wasn't going to the right airport that we needed to be at to jump on our next flight that we were going to have to get on to get to Osaka.
Hmm.
So basically, the kid I was traveling with, he like profusely apologized, and basically was like, I'm gonna pay for the bullet train. And he ended up digging in his pockets, paying for the bullet train because he kind of made a mistake. I would have paid for it. It wasn't that big of a deal, but he kind of made a mistake. Whatever. It happens. It's bound to happen. It's traveling.
Hmm.
And so we took the bullet train in instead of taking our flight. But on the way back, we still had a round trip flight. So we took a flight back. And then we made one other trip outside of Tokyo, which was to Nagano. And that was on the bullet train. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. When I traveled to Japan many moons ago, I actually stayed mostly in the city. I never had the opportunity to enjoy the bullet train. However, like local transportation was very interesting. Did you ride the local subway system? And if you did, talk a little bit about that because I thought that was pretty unique.
Yeah, I did. I did tell my travel companion that everything in terms of navigation was going to be on him. So I didn't do as much uh, paying attention as I should have, but even I was picking up on, oh, this is literally in a circle. It is so clearly, I don't know, I thought it was very easy to follow and
Oh,
understand.
good. Yeah, I'm specifically talking about traveling during rush hour and having the train pushers push people in. So, did you travel during like peak commuting time? Did you have an
Yeah.
opportunity to see
Yeah,
that?
no, there was no pushing. There's like shields that come up every
Yeah.
time and open. Like there was no pushing, nothing.
Wow. Well, it's good. So that's something you have to try to get back there to see because it is something I remember
Is that something I
when
want
when
to
when when
experience?
when they were well, yeah, because they were trying to push your father and they kept bouncing off of me. The little guys trying to push me and they kept bouncing off of me. So just like that turn around is like is there a little mosquito behind me? But
Oh my
anyway.
God.
I want to talk a little bit more about like the street food and food in general. Was it expensive?
No, the food. Okay, this also has a lot to do with my timing and the exchange rate, but food was so inexpensive. I can't even, I could get almost a whole meal for $6, probably.
Wow. And
Whole meal.
filling.
Mm-hmm. No, I would say their food is much lighter, like much lighter. It doesn't fill you up as much. So you do,
Okay.
I don't know. I felt like I needed to eat more, but that also probably had to do with me walking 20,000 steps. So that's like
Oh,
equivalent to 10 miles every day. So
yeah, that's definitely something that wow, that'd be a challenge for me.
I was
Um,
probably really hungry and I
and knowing that you have your dietary needs as a pescatarian, you did find a wide variety of things you could have.
I did okay. It depends on where you are. Some areas of Japan, I had no trouble in Nagano. It was mostly vegetarian there. Um, but in Tokyo, it's a lot of meat. Um, a lot of meat broth. That was my hardest thing is like
Mm.
broth. And yeah, that it was actually challenging. But again, I am also not the biggest sushi fan, so I didn't get a ton of sushi in Japan, and I know that's like a crime. Um,
Well, when did that change? Because when you were younger, you certainly did enjoy sushi. When did you transition away from
I
sushi?
I just don't like raw sushi. I don't like raw sushi at all. I don't think I did when I was younger either. And and it's like that's traditional sushi. I had sushi while I was there, don't worry. But no, it's kind of hard because you also in that culture you're not supposed to ask for any changes from the menu.
Yes,
So,
yes.
some days it was hard. Some days it was just egg sandwiches, and that was okay.
That's great. And talk to me a little bit about like the sandwiches, like their vending machines. I mean, that was one of the things that really impressed me. Like you can get almost anything in a vending machine.
Yeah, yeah, I loved their shopping is so interesting, and there's so much of it.
Yeah.
Um, it's like they have indoor outdoor malls. It's the most overwhelming place you've ever been.
And talk to me a little bit about the types of technology you saw there. Was it like incredible?
Their toilets are pretty cool.
Ah, that's where I'm getting to. Talk to me about the toilet, the Toto toilet.
They have really nice toilets. They have like heated seats and this is in a hot like in hostels they had heated seats and
Yeah,
yeah,
and a
it,
nice bidet. Yeah,
yeah,
that's awesome. Did you have any issues communicating, and how did you get around that?
yeah, of course. A lot of the time when you go places, you kind of want to be a little prepared because you're entering somebody else's area. You can't expect them to know your language just like you don't know theirs. So, we were definitely had the basics down so we could get by and be polite and whatever. But for the most part, once people, I mean, it's pretty easy to tell in Japan when you're a foreigner, especially when you're like a lot taller than a lot of the people. You just really stand out a little bit. But they would usually respond in English. Uh, and if we were in a more rural area, they were fine with using Google Translate. They were so sweet and very
Hmm.
helpful a lot of the time. We looked clearly lost and uh somebody came up to us at the train station and like pointed us in the right direction. Very kind people. So,
I want to peel the onion back a little bit about feeling comfortable, and it's more of a concern in the United States, the race issue. However, I've seen some recent articles and recent things talking about a race challenge in Japan. Did you ever feel uncomfortable as a black female? And let me ask you, what was the ethnicity of your travel companion? And then talk about if you saw any differences that happened between how you were individually treated versus your travel companion.
so yes, I think it is true that there is clearly a dominant race in Japan, but that doesn't surprise me. And I never felt uncomfortable or really out of place, to be honest. I had very nice interactions with locals and with people from everywhere around the world, so I didn't feel any different. I would say though, my companion is a white male. He
Mhm.
definitely in Japan, it's pretty typical for white men to be like the desired person because I'm there's an assumption that there's money or whatever it is. So in that sense, sure, but I didn't feel any different or treated any differently. That doesn't surprise me that a white man is getting attention. Like,
Yeah.
that happens anywhere.
Yeah,
So
no, no, I think you're right, and historically, and I'm not speaking as an expert of Japan culture, but
no.
from my experience and the research I've done, there is definitely that hierarchy you talk about in terms of the stratification of social stratification, and it goes from Japanese to white to even other Asians before you get to like darker skinned minorities, and we're not talking just U.S. I mean, I know there are a lot of Africans that go to Japan, and from other English, Black English that go to Japan and other countries. So I definitely understand what you're saying about the whole race thing. But I'm glad to hear that you didn't feel challenged by the social stratification or that you were being treated differently because of who you were. So that's very encouraging to hear.
Yeah, and it was like we had good moments too. Like American culture there is so loved. It's everywhere. And like I was in the club and like in an R&B section and it's just like these Japanese guys and girls who just take on black culture and like are like hip hop breakdancing and like coming up to me and we're like, yeah, she's from New York. She's from New York. They're like, oh my god. They have like Yankees and Red Sox mixing. Like they love it, and I don't know. I thought it was. I didn't feel uncomfortable. I don't know.
Well, travel violation, travel violation. You are a New Hampshire native living closest to Boston, fronting like you're from New York
They
overseas.
didn't know where
How
Boston
dare
was
you? You will
either.
never ever again get my moniker of Bostonian. How dare you pretend you're a New Yorker? Oh
No,
my
I had
goodness.
to.
You're out of the will.
I had to do what I had to do.
No, I hear you. I have to admit that there were sometimes I was in travel situations where I pretended I was a Canadian because it was just going to make it easier for me to get along. So I hear you. I say ingest the things I say, but yeah, I get it. So you didn't feel people were looking at you excessively because that's one of the things that I noticed when I was there, and obviously I look different than you. Um, as well as you look different than other people, but in particular, I found it very uncomfortable sometimes because I felt people were staring at me, and I really couldn't put my finger on it. Was it because I was a black guy, or was it because I was a foreigner, or was it because I had a piece of lettuce in my teeth? I have
I
no
don't
idea, but I felt that there was a lot of eyes on me all the time.
I don't know. I don't know. They this Japan was the country that stares at you the least. Like they could give less of a care in the world. Everybody's looking at their phones. Everybody's glued to their phones. It's like rude to stare at people. Like you're not supposed to look at people. You're
Yeah,
not supposed to look at people. So, no. I you should revisit if you can so that you can see the difference, and it might be a generational thing. I don't know. It might be a
yeah,
phone being around thing. I don't
yeah,
know. But
yeah.
it's quiet. Nobody looks at you, nobody bothers you. That's it.
So give me your 1 out of 10 recommendation on going back to Japan in the future.
It's got to be like a solid 8 for me going
Mm,
back. I want to ski in Japan so badly. They have some really crazy mountains and like bathhouses that are just hundreds of years old, and it's
yeah,
so beautiful. I need to go back and do that again.
that's awesome. That's good to hear. What is your best advice to plan last minute travel in general?
Take calculated risks. I had had ended a job and then had another opportunity lined up. I had 10 days in between between those jobs ending and starting, and I just took a chance. I booked flights last minute. It was Wednesday and I booked them for Sunday and I was out, and I had booked my accommodations. I knew I had enough money for that. My flight was free because I had used credit card points for it that I had made in the summer on my Europe trip. It was the right time to do it, and I was the right age. And I think you should always take a leap of faith, but definitely make sure it's a calculated risk, and your life can handle that.
Awesome. No, that's a great answer. And I want you to just dive back a little bit about the types of travel hacks you use. So I heard one, you took advantage of credit card miles. You mentioned a couple of others. That the timing of when you booked. Like, could you tell me a little bit about some of the resources you used to even make it possible for you to have this trip?
Yeah, so credit card, definitely. That was super helpful. That was from a sign-on bonus, and I got the points for spending the money I did. It's paid for itself. 10 out of 10 recommend travel credit cards. They're awesome. Um, and then, like I said, hostels, that's really a big saver. Um, I also wasn't looking for luxurious meals. I was only traveling for 10 days, so I only had to travel with a backpack. There are things I did, like hacks I did to save money here and there, but overall, there wasn't I was nervous, but not nervous financially, and my life was in a position where I could go off and pause and take the time to myself before I jumped into the next phase of life, you know? I
Yeah.
think sometimes you don't get a break from work and then you forget.
Looking at your crystal ball, right? You're looking at your crystal ball for travel. Would you recommend solo travel to Japan in the future, or would you prefer group travel? Or would you give us a little bit about what you think the future holds for you in terms of Japan?
I would, if I'm going back on a ski trip, I want to do it with friends. I want to do it with a lot of friends, maybe family, if anybody was up for it. But I could not see myself not going back with the people I love and being there with them.
Great answer. What sites do you regret not getting to when you were in Japan?
Mount Fuji, Fiji.
Wow, the
Yeah.
big, the big Kahuna, huh?
Yeah, it was super wet and rainy while we were there, so there was no way we were gonna be able to see it. And you can only see it like on, I don't even know, it's a ridiculous amount. It's like 10% of the time or something crazy.
Mm.
Don't quote me. But so we decided against it, but I wish that we could have gone and seen it.
And what does that trip entail? Like, how long is that bullet train out to Mount Fuji? Did you even research that piece?
Yeah, no, it was far. It was a 2-hour trip from where we were, but I can't
And
remember.
that's on the bullet train, correct?
Yeah. I can't remember if we were in Tokyo yet or if we were in Osaka. I don't remember. I don't know where we were, but it was far. It was really far.
We're coming towards the end of this, so I know I really appreciate you taking the time. One of the questions that really interested me to ask you is how much time do you think you need to enjoy Japan, or any location? How much time do you think to be able to get there, get engrossed in what you're doing, do enough for the things that you want to do, and to get back out efficiently? How much, what in the number of days, what does that look like to you?
It's got to be a solid month. Japan's huge.
Wow.
And I
Mm,
think that's taking the time in each city is really important
yeah.
because there's so much history, and it's so deep in culture, and it's a beautiful place, and you should really just enjoy it. Even if it's just the nature part, it's gorgeous. It's unbeatable. It's clean. It's just peaceful. Yeah, definitely a month.
Okay. Please describe your most negative aspect of your trip and then your most positive aspect.
The most negative, I think there's a little bit of a dark side to Tokyo nightlife. I think that young girls get exploited, and I think it's a little weird. The age kink thing that is, or the schoolgirl thing that goes on, and is encouraged. And It's kind of sad. That was
Isn't
shocking.
that isn't that a part of that anime lifestyle too? That look of a prepubescent kind
Yeah,
of wide-eyed character, and mostly in female pixie costumes.
yeah,
Isn't that baked in?
in some ways, yeah, but that's kind of, I don't know, when you put a actual person doing that, it's a lot different and it's a lot sadder because they do
Yeah,
not look happy at all, like
yeah.
at all. And they typically try and get tourists because there's a ton of old people there who are just interested in that. So that's a little
Mm.
sad. And my most positive, I don't know, I really think that it was just the most serene place I have been. And it felt like I was in another world where like society conformed to positive environments, and it was just, I don't know, it was just so peaceful. It was what is exactly what I needed before starting this next chapter in my life. So go if you need peace. Go to Japan.
Ending this interview, any final words about your trip? Anything? This is the floor is yours. Can you wrap this up? Wrap your travel adventure up in a few sentences, and offer some encouragement, young travelers who may be on the fence about not even just Japan, but just travel in general. And you always give us a nice message at the end. So would you do that here?
Yeah, be confident in yourself. When you know you want to go somewhere, get there. And you can always get there. And just be smart and safe about it. And always stay in a hostel because you will meet the coolest people. So,
Thank you again for your time. You're always welcome to return to Travel Like an Oching to have these conversations. You're very special to me, obviously being my daughter. So I try to neutrally speak to you, but it's hard to do that when I see all the adventures you're having and you putting yourself out there. And although I know the world has risk, I also know that the world is wide, beautiful, and has a lot of adventure that you can take part in. So, continue to be the beautiful young woman that you are, traveling the world. Don't let things restrict you, and always be safe with what you do. And with that, I want to thank you. We're going to sign off from Travel Like an Oching.
bye,
Bye bye.
everybody.
Remember to like and subscribe and click that bell